So the new Flexi-Wing rules came into place during the Spanish Grand Prix weekend with the reported aim of trying to reduce the advantage that McLaren has by tightening the regulations around the tests that are taking place on the front wings in terms of the deflection they are allowed to, the amount that they move while under stress, while under a weight. In this case, it was reduced a significant amount. Now, the leading theory behind this was that McLaren were going to suffer for this, but I also thought going into this weekend they weren't going to. They've had plenty of time to adapt the car to this, and they were rather bullish as well. They basically said, what changes? We've not had any changes for this race weekend when compared to Monaco. They ran the exact same car. If anything, it hurt some of the competition, I would say, because McLaren had an incredibly dominant weekend, 1-2 in qualifying, 1-2 in the race. Rarely looked troubled, really. You know, Max Verstappen overtook Lando Norris briefly at the start of the race, but after that, McLaren were untouchable. They were absolutely untouchable. So, if anything, this rule has hurt some other teams, and maybe it's helped Sauber out with how well the Hulk did this weekend just gone. The real MVP of the weekend, as I've dubbed him in a separate video, but the FIA is not stopping here. They are wanting to clamp down even more potentially. They are going to apparently run dynamic Flexi-Wing checks. They are not ruling this out being the case in the near future. So let's have a look at this full story here on the F1Chronicle.com. As always, guys, the FIA is not ruling out what they call dynamic tests to clamp down even harder on flexible wings in Formula 1. Nicholas Tombashis, the Federation's single-seater chief, has had a busy weekend in Barcelona as tough new flexibility checks debuted for McLaren's style bendy front wings. It has had little impact on the pecking order, however, with McLaren getting 1-2 in qualifying and in the race as well. What a waste of money, 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton is quoted as saying by La Gazzetta dello Sport. Nothing has changed. Everyone's wings are still bending. They're just halfway to the bending point now, and everyone has to build new wings and spend money to make them. It would have been better for everyone to donate the money to charity, the Ferrari driver added. I mean, I don't disagree with that, but come on. Was that ever going to happen? Tombashis doesn't deny that the teams are still up to clever flexibility tricks even in Barcelona. The teams arrived prepared with more rigid wings and some aerodynamic modifications, he told Sky Italia on Saturday. Tombashis said that the dynamic tests, which are evaluated by the FIA when the cars are actually running on track, are now a possibility. First, the issue is to better understand the precision of the measurements, he added. For now, we'll use dynamic tests to calibrate the static tests. Also tested by the teams on the FIA's behalf this weekend have been the new steel materials underneath the cars instead of the usual spark-producing titanium. For now, it's an experiment, Tombashis said. It's too early to judge. It weighs more, but it's the same for everyone. We think the consumption is similar. Some think that it's a shame that the steel will not produce the same spectacular sparks, but Tombashis clarified the intention is to use them only on tracks where is the risk of fires. Okay. So that's in response to, obviously, the grass fires we had at the Japanese Grand Prix when sparks were flying up. We had it in China a few years ago as well. So that's probably a good thing, to be honest. I mean, the sparks are really cool, but if they are, being used at tracks where there is potential for a fire, and let's be real, you don't really see the sparks that much on a bright sunny day. You might do if it's cloudy, but it's more spectacular at the night races, places like Singapore and some of the Middle East races as well. So, I think that is probably a smart move from the FIA. I wasn't aware they actually changed that. But yeah, apparently, reportedly, McLaren have not changed their front wing at all. They knew these regulation changes were coming, and they made whatever changes they had to make to their car in order to, make sure that it was legal at that point. So if Ferrari have had to put some new wings in, like Hamilton is alluding to there, it's very much cost them and it's hurt them, even if it's not in terms of their performance being a downturn. It is hurting them in terms of, obviously, them using money that could have been used for something else, like charity, I guess, but more likely for research and development of their cars. So dynamic tests in this case, will briefly explain what that means. So right now, the test for the front wings and indeed any kind of scrutineering by the FIA is done statically. It's done while the car is parked up. The FIA puts a load onto the aerofoil, such as the front wing, and then they measure how much it deflects, how much it moves. If it moves too much, it's illegal. If it's within the boundaries of the regulations, it is legal. However, a more accurate test would be to do it out on track. However, the problem with that is that the cars are moving and doing like 200 miles an hour. Ideally, if you were to do this load test, you would have it so that you're measuring it at the fastest part of the circuit. So therefore, there is the most amount of load being pushed onto the wing. So therefore, in theory, they are deflected as much as possible. But the problem with that is it's very difficult to measure. Now the FIA is very clever. They've put cameras on cars before to, look at the deflection, to get a feeling of the deflection in places like Baku and Italy last year, very high speed tracks. McLaren and Mercedes were the main ones that were under the spotlight with that. But obviously they didn't get an accurate figure from that because it's a video feed. And anybody that watches football or soccer, for you American guys, are, things like VAR. You know how inaccurate these cameras, which are used for 4K resolution, crystal clear picture today in the world of football. When you zoom in, when you freeze frame it, you get motion blur. And especially when cars are doing 200 miles an hour, you're going to get motion blur. So the accuracy of cameras for this would have to be questioned. However, I imagine they could also potentially use some sort of laser device to measure it. I'm just speculating, but it'll be very difficult, and it's not something that I expect the FIA to come up with a quick solution to. This is something that could probably rumble on to next year. They've made a change, and it's not really changed anything, if that was their intention. So your thoughts in the comments below, guys. What are these dynamic tests going to look like? Will they hurt McLaren, or will they just keep powering on forward? If anything, it's maybe helped McLaren. They had one of their best weekends of the season in Spain. So your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Like, share, comment, subscribe as always, and have a fantastic day wherever you're on the world today, and we'll see you very soon.